Oh, I didn't see you there.
Oh,
thanks for coming into my shop today. So today we got something a little bit different for you guys. Adam's been pestering, harassing, whatever word you choose to use, that I should do a more educational videos instead of just showing how awesome I am smoking cigars. So today he's decided to ask me just kind of like common questions about, things about cigars, or wrappers, various just kind of questions in general. So kind of questions he's gotten here in the shop while he's here and whatnot. So that's what we're doing today.
Yeah. So I think the first question I have is, I've smoked a couple of cigars. I've noticed that sometimes you did mention it last week. I think it'd be good to go more in depth on it. What exactly makes it a good cigar have a good clean burn? Or some cigars have a more jagged burn. What affects that exactly?
Usually it's the roll. So if you have, say, you've got a cigar, number one, you want to look at hand rolled. If you have what's called a machine rolled cigar, usually they're $2 sticks or so, like that Trader Jack. Usually on a stick that's machine rolled, you'll see a lot of veins in it, like I was pointing out yesterday. So usually when you have a large vein, it's going to cause just a nasty uneven burn because it's so thick. It's just not going to burn. So whenever you have like a good hand roll, which you'll find on your nowadays you'll find hand rolls that are between $5 and $10. So anytime you're gonna light it, number one is you want to make sure that you get a really good light on it when you go for that first initial light. So lots and lots of fire. You really can't put too much fire on it unless you're just waving around like a madman. In case, what are you doing smoking a cigar? So I would say the most important thing, whether it's hand rolled or machine rolled, is to just make sure you get a really good initial light on it. Make sure there's, after you're lighting it, make sure you're puffing on it, and then look back on it. I usually like to blow on it, just so I can see where it's glowing and make sure that all the edges are well lit, so that way it's going to start, and if it has a good start, you have a much better chance of it just burning straight all the way through. So the quality of the roll for sure, and then just getting a really good light on it. So I would say the most important things for make sure you getting a good straight burn.
All right. I think another good question is, if you buy a couple of cigars, 1, 2, or whatever the amount is, and if you don't have a humidor, you didn't buy anything to keep it moisturized, I guess, what would you say is the easiest, if not easiest, the best way to keep them fresh?
It depends on how long you're trying to keep them. I mean, if you're trying to keep them for 2-3 weeks, you should probably buy a humidor regardless of how many you have, even if you just start off with like a small one. If you just really, I only buy a couple cigars, but I keep them for 2-3 weeks, I would say the easiest thing to do is just put them in a good thick Ziploc bag. And then of course, don't open it a bunch of time, don't wave it around. With so few cigars, it's okay to just have an airtight seal. So I'd let all the air out of that bag, just zip it up and just keep it in a cool place, like up in a closet or something. Would just be the simplest way to do it until you start buying more on a regular basis. The reason is, if you just buy a cigar like this cigar, which has no cellophane to it, you just leave it out. The next day, if it's just leaving out, you can come to it, you can feel on it and be like, this doesn't feel the same as it was yesterday. Well, it's because all the moisture in this cigar is exchanging with the air around it. Obviously nature trying to balance everything out. So that's why it won't keep for more than 3-4 days just sitting out in the open. By day 4, it's going to be dry enough to just snap.
Right.
So I'd say a good sturdy Ziploc bag will keep them for a week or so, and you'll be fine.
And the cheapest way is definitely at our cigar shop, you can buy little packets.
Right.
Of little packets that keep it humid.
Right.
If you can't afford a humidor, and
right.
there are special bags, right? Like special bags that also keep it
like the travel bags that we sell here with the 5 on Fire deal. They come with a little
humid pack, I guess.
Yeah, Humidipack, the little Bovita packs is what they've changed their name to now, which will exchange moisture with your cigars, and those will actually keep Those will actually keep in an airtight bag like that. Those will actually keep up to about 6 months or so. But again, I mean, it does only hold 4 or 5 cigars. So, I mean, if you're smoking more than 4 or 5 cigars, a month, I would say it's time to move on to at least a small 20 count humidor just because I mean you don't want your investment to go bad. I mean, on those 5 cigars you've probably spent anywhere between $30 and $50. I mean, you don't want to be if you're paying for a luxury item, you don't want to come to the point where you're offering your friends, you're offering a guest, here, have the cigar. This cigar is awfully dry,
Right.
Because it is a luxury thing. So.
All right, and so here and other places, let's use a torch to light a cigar. Can you use just a big lighter, for instance? Can you just a regular lighter? Will that affect the taste, the overall effect of the cigar?
The reason you use a torch or you use matches is you don't want to impart any impurities into your cigar. The absolute worst thing to use, in my opinion, which I actually have guys that come into my shop and use, and it kind of makes me cringe on the inside when I see them do is using a Zippo lighter.
Is it because of the fluid, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've tried it before. You get that really gritty, almost ruins the cigar taste that just is from beginning to end, and it has that.
Absolutely.
Is it because the tobacco just soaks in? Okay.
Well, yes. The reason is there's so much fluid coming out for how much fire is being produced. It's coming out this much, but the fire is only this big.
Right.
So as you're puffing on it, all that extra fluid is going into your cigar. You can use a Bic lighter, but I wouldn't for that same reason. Again, it kind of depends on what you're smoking. Are you smoking? This is my everyday smoke. Bic lighter. Will I notice a difference? Probably not. But I would always recommend using a torch. The reason you use a torch is because it burns so hot, it's burning all of the fluid off. And as you adjust it, obviously your flame is going higher or lower, and it's going to burn it at any length, just completely burn off all that fluid, and that's why. So it's not going to impart any impurities into your cigar. And again, you're buying a luxury item, so you don't want to ruin your investment and buy, hey, here's this $15 cigar, light it with my Zippo.
Right. Ruins the taste.
I mean, oh man, you really taste that Zippo flavor. I mean, I love Zippos for starting, fires. I don't like them for lighting cigars or even lighting cigarettes. Like,
right.
I mean, you immediately taste the fluid, and here's this good cigar you're lighting, and what's the first thing you taste? Lighter fluid. Because even before that cigar catches on fire, you're gonna taste fluid. So that's the flavor that you start with. I mean, will it eventually burn off? Yeah, but not till you're about halfway, and then in my opinion, you've already ruined the cigar. So.
Right. A cigar does have different flavors as it goes along.
Right.
You'll get different flavors in the first half. All you taste is
It's just fluid. I mean, I've relit a cigar with a big lighter. When I was on the road and I had nothing else. I mean, it's like I said, it depends on what cigar you're lighting. If I was on that same road and I had a high-end cigar that I was smoking, I was like, I'm gonna wait till I find some matches, or stop at the nearest convenience store.
And matches, $1.50.
Yeah, and then I mean, you're doing yourself a favor by lighting it correctly.
Sorry. To move on, I know that some cigars have different types of wrapping. We were talking about this earlier. You have like Maduro, natural, and whatnot. So I know that does affect the flavor, right?
Right.
But do they have different tobacco types that also affect the flavor, or is tobacco overall just generally the same?
Tobacco is actually not the same. Best way to kind of understand it's very similar to wine. It matters where it's grown and how it's grown. I mean, is it growing under shade? Then you're going to get a tobacco that is a lot less. What's the word I'm looking for? Shade grown tobacco tends to be a lot lighter in color. It's not going to be as mature per se. It's a lot more durable because it doesn't have the sun constantly beating down on it. Maduro wrappers, all good Maduro wrappers come from actually aging leaves. So they'll take them in these big drying rooms after they're dried out. They come with a real stiff leather, and then they actually put them in a big pile. Basically, it looks like a compost pile, and they have to constantly turn it at certain periods of time, so that way with the heat and the pressure, it's actually aging these leaves. So when you have a Maduro wrapper, Maduro literally means ripened, is what it is. So as they're aging under the heat and pressure, they get a lot darker. A lot of those natural sugars come out. Your flavors come out a whole lot more. That's why usually when you smoke a Connecticut cigar, the flavors are there. They're just not usually as pronounced. Whereas if you took that same leaf, aged it to a Maduro, and then rolled up that exact same cigar, the flavors are going to be a lot more pronounced. You're going to be able to pick out a lot more of the different flavors that are in that exact same leaf, but because it's gone through this aging process, they're going to come out a lot more.
Okay, and if there is a difference, I know there's a difference between it. Basically, is there a big difference between punching a cigar and cutting it off? Like, do some cigars require to be cut and some cigars require to be punched, or is it just preference, if anything?
I would say overall it's preference. I do a combination, if that makes sense, because I'll actually pull out my knife and actually cut my whole.
Yeah, that's that you never use
how I want it.
Yeah.
Like I don't like using cutters because you risk snipping the end too far, and then it comes out and it unravels. When you cut, you also open up the cigar so much you risk like getting pieces in your mouth.
Oh yeah.
It gets. I feel like you lose the structural integrity a little bit, so it's going to feel mushier in your mouth as you smoke it through. So that's why I like using mine and just cutting it to whatever hole size that I like. If I had to choose one or the other, I would say definitely punch, because it's creating just that's obviously that circular hole right there, because that's all a punch is a circular razor blade. So instead of coming down, you're just going in.
Right.
With a cut, you are guaranteed better airflow because you're taking more out. Now with a punch, you can punch in the middle. Hey, this airflow is not quite right. Move it over a little bit and then do like another half punch. Okay, that's a little better.
Right.
So for me personally, I like to punch, but I would say it really boils down to personal preference. I have had cigars where I was smoking them and I said, this is a cigar that needs to be cut. The Macanudo is a Macanudo Corona. I punched it, was smoking it, and there was just such a tar buildup at the end of where the hole punch was. It would just constantly get in my mouth, and I was like, cut. Okay, everything's fine. So that's a rare occurrence, but I would say it's more personal preference overall. So those were great questions.
All right, and just one last question, or do you want to do another more? Or?
I figured we'd just do another one later on.
Okay. Out of your opinion, what is the biggest mistake in smoking a cigar? If I had to guess, probably people who are used to smoking a cigarette and they inhale, because then it feels like you're dying.
Yeah, because these are nothing like cigarettes. When you're smoking a cigarette, you're smoking 99% chemicals, which are made to taste a certain way, and that's actually why they're so easy to inhale. This is just all natural tobacco that's literally picked, dried, and rolled up. So when you try to inhale these, thinking it's like a cigarette, it's just you go because this is nothing like a cigarette.
Chest hurts, your throat hurts.
Yeah, and then you're like,
it's bad.
And a lot of people they'll do that and go, oh man, I hate cigars once because you're not smoking it right. But yes, I would say that was the number one mistake for people that have never smoked cigars that they do is they inhale it. So it's really in your mouth, taking it in your cheeks, just kind of roll around and blow it out. So.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions that we missed, put it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for watching. All right. So what do you want to do?
Do the intro, explain what's going on. like that, I'll just be asking you, do you want me to do it, or do you want to look each other very... So,
intently? And
Jonathan,
like,
first question. Dating single? It's fine. So, John, are you seeing anyone?
I see lots of people.
Ah!